Yitzi, it's Sukkot. What should we talk about?
Shabbos and Yom Tov come out together this year, so we're going to be reading Kohelet on the first day of Chag. So let's talk a little bit about Kohelet.
Ooh, I like it. So I'll tell you why I think it's interesting to talk about Kohelet, because Sukkot, as we all know, is the festival, the holiday of happiness. So one has to be happy, and Sukkot, it's even more so. Yet Kohelet, if you ever learned it or even just read it, it's probably one of the most depressing Sfarim that there is. And reading Kohelet on Sukkot seems to contradict the whole concept of Sukkot. Why are we reading such a depressing Megillah on Sukkot when we're supposed to be happy? And I'll also add into that, I saw brought down by the Gaon Reb Chaim Yaakov Levine, that it's interesting that on Sukkot and on Pesach we read two Megillot that were both written by Shlomo HaMelech, Shir HaShirim and Kohelet. Shir HaShirim, when you read it, it's full of brightness, of optimism, of love. It's a beautiful Megillah. When you look at Kohelet, it's the exact opposite. It's all darkness, pessimistic, and it's hard to think that the same person wrote both Megillot. So some people give an answer that Shir HaShirim was written when Shlomo HaMelech was younger and Kohelet was written when he was older, and therefore he was more frustrated with the world, more realistic, if you want to call it that way. And that seems to be a very simple answer, but there's definitely something more to it. Why are we reading Kohelet on Chag HaSukkot?
Well, actually, I also for years used to look at Kohelet as a very depressing sefer. As you go from pasuk to pasuk, every time it looks like he's going to say something good, he ends up by saying, but that's nothing, it's worthless, it's pointless. Hakol hevel, hevel avalim. So really, how could this go together with the Chag that's all about Simcha? But if you take a deeper dive into Kohelet and you read carefully, you realize that Kohelet not only is not a depressing book, I think it's the book that teaches us about Simcha. And I'll give you a few examples of things that don't really fit into that pattern of nothingness and depression. Every here and there throughout the Sefer, and this repeats itself several times, he'll suddenly say, Ein tov ba'adam she'ochal v'yishteh v'hera'et nafsho tov b'amalo. There's nothing better than eating, drinking, and enjoying your work. And there's no negative that comes after that. And he repeats this again and again. Eating, drinking, enjoying life, the best thing in the world. So what happened? Meaning 2 minutes before he's saying it's pointless, it's nothing, and eating and drinking, that's what life's about? What's going on here? But if you look carefully, you'll notice something very interesting. If you look through the psukim and you see what he's getting depressed about, you'll notice he'll say something positive. You think he's gonna say something good, but then suddenly he'll say, but at the end, they all end up the same. At the end, they're all gonna die the same. Or who knows what's gonna be at the end. It's really nice and looks good, but who knows what's gonna come after. If you look carefully, you realize that what's causing him depression is constantly this change of perspective from the present, where he saw something that looked positive, to the future, to the unknown future, which as a human he can't know. When you think of eating and drinking, those are two examples of things that are totally present. There's no future in them. Meaning you eat, you drink, and then after an hour, you're hungry again. There's zero future in that. Also thinking of enjoying your work, not enjoying the results of your work, enjoying the amal, the effort. Effort is only in the present. It's not about the future. Someone who enjoys the effort is someone who's not focused only on the outcome, but focused on the effort itself, on the now, on the present. And I think this is the message that Shlomo HaMelech is teaching us here. He says that someone who is good before God, Hashem gives him simcha. And to the rasha, he gives the opposite of simcha. So what is the opposite of simcha? He says, inyan la'asof v'lichnos, the desire to constantly be chasing something, to constantly be going after something else. The opposite of simcha is chasing something that's not in the present. You want to be sameach, you want to have happiness, you need to learn to appreciate the moment. That he says, there's a time for everything. Lechol zman va'et, there's a time for everything. Et hakol ha'sayafeh b'ito. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made everything beautiful in its time. Forget what's going to be later. He says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us in this world without the ability to see merosh v'ad sof, to see from beginning to end. God sees from beginning to end. He gave us the present. He didn't give us the future that's in his hands. If we're able to look at the present, like someone who eats and drinks and appreciates and enjoys the presence that he has in life, and enjoys the present and the presents, he's able to appreciate them and not constantly be thinking, it's good now, but who knows what's going to be. This is the key to true happiness and to true emunah. And this is what Sukkot is about. Because the Torah says, V'ha'ita ach sameach. What does it mean to be only happy? I think it's exactly this. Sukkot is called Chag HaAsif. It's the holiday where we collect all the fruits and everything that grew throughout the year. And it's a moment where we're filled. We should have no worries. We have everything. We look at all the produce. We look at all the fruit, everything we've brought in. We should appreciate what we have and be happy. But human beings, especially in moments when they should be happy, tend to start worrying about tomorrow. They look at what they have, they're sameach, but sameach ach, the opposite of ach sameach. They're sameach, but who knows what's going to be next year? And the Torah says, I want you on Sukkot to forget next year. Look at what you have. Ve'ita ach sameach, just be purely sameach. If you're capable of looking at the present, leaving the future for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, seeing the presents that He's given you, appreciating them, that's key to true simcha. And Kohelet repeats this throughout the entire Sefer. And that's what Chag Sukkot is about. And I think in that sense, putting Kohelet in Chag Sukkot is exactly the meaning of V'hayita ach sameach.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Like we've discussed this in the past, we discussed already the importance of happiness in our Avodat Hashem as part of our lives. In order to fulfill our potential, in order to move forwards in life, you have to have this basic level of happiness. You have to be able to be happy. And one of the things that we are learning now in Sukkot is what this happiness is about, as it's brought down in many places in Chassidut. For example, in the Sfasem, is that the reason Chag HaSukkot is right after Yom Kippur is because after Yom Kippur, our hearts are set straight. Yom Kippur is the day that we stop running after the world. Yom Kippur is the day we stop chasing fake happiness, fake things around us. It's the day we turn back to be truthful to ourselves, to be who we are supposed to be, and clean ourselves from everything that has attached onto us throughout the year. And now we can finally listen to ourselves and listen to what we're supposed to be, and therefore we can finally find happiness. And how do we fulfill this happiness? By first being truthful to ourselves and being ourselves and ignoring all the fakeness around us. And again, as we said this many times, and also as we've discussed in the past, this past year has taught us to let go of all the noise around us, whether we wanted to let go of it, whether we didn't want to let go of it. It left us, and we're left with ourselves. And perhaps, like you mentioned, Chag HaSukkot is Chag HaAsif, the festival where we gather everything we have. And like we mentioned in our previous talk, one of the basic ways to get to happiness is, first of all, acknowledging what you have and being grateful for it, showing that gratitude. Gratitude is what leads to happiness. Like first graders are taught that the present is a present, and being grateful for it, using that to ignite that happiness. And also, as we've discussed many times, happiness, once you ignite it, it's a tiny spark that can light you up in many, many ways. And as we know, Chag HaSukkot in the Torah, Hayita ach sameach, but in Chazal, it's all about Simchas Beit HaShoeva. It's all about the different festivals that were happening throughout Chag HaSukkot in order to enhance this happiness. And with this happiness, to move into the winter and begin the year so that we can continue in our path to our destiny, to fulfilling our own goal in this life.
It's interesting, Simchat Beit HaShoeva is seen as key to next year's rain, which is exactly what's making people worried, what's going to happen next year. So in a sense, the key to a raha for next year is appreciating what you have this year. He said that simplistic answer that Shlomo HaMelech wrote Shir HaShirim when he was young and Kohelet when he was older. But I think it's actually something else. It is true that when you're older, you have a different perspective in life. When you're younger, you think that life is all about your dreams, it's about chasing your dreams. And you get so involved in chasing these dreams, you expect happiness to come when you reach them. When you're older, you look back at life and you realize that you've wasted so much time chasing the next moment, you haven't been able to really appreciate and enjoy the current moment. That's Shlomo HaMelech when he's older and has life experience, is able to understand what true simcha is and how to achieve it.
And as we said at one of the times we talked about the simcha, happiness is what leads to success, not the opposite, and is one of the most important things to remember in our lives, and especially today.
Goyech, you should have a Chag Sameach, and it should be Ach Sameach.
Amen. Chag Sameach to you too. And in Mitzvah next week, big finish of the Torah, Simchas Torah, so we'll talk again. More Talking Torah videos on different topics. Check out our YouTube channel.